The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. Thrilled to be here with you this morning. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live and for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We are very excited. We've got a big show for you here this morning. A couple of things have changed about our show this morning. I know those of you who watch the show on a regular basis, you so look forward to on Thursday morning Bonnie Yates, who's a special education attorney, and we've been taking on the IEP process. Bonnie had mentioned to us last week that she was going to be in Texas, but that she was still going to be able to do the Skype with us, just not from the law firm of Hirji and Chow, that she was going to be in Texas with none other than Temple Grandin, Dr. Temple Grandin. And as luck would have it, there's something that she needs to do with Temple Grandin at the exact time that they cannot break to, because we'd love it if Temple was here too, but it can't be this morning. So, we'll reconvene with Bonnie next week, where we'll boo-hoo into our cereal this morning about the fact that she won't be here. But I think we all can acknowledge that if we had the opportunity to go be with Temple Grandin this morning, it's often a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I'm thrilled. She's going to come back with great stories, so that'll be really wonderful. Having said that, though, you know what the truth is that we didn't have enough time to do all the things that we wanted to do in the show today. So, we'll have some more time, which will be awesome. And we've got some great guests coming up for you. So I do want to start by reminding all of you that we will be live with you for the next 2 hours and that it's meant to be interactive. We hope that you will participate with us. We love to hear your thoughts, your feelings, your concerns, your questions, and your comments. And there are lots of different ways that you can participate in this show, which we hope will be fully interactive. So Samantha is going to show you some of the ways that you can participate with us, while I will remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's a lot of things to do. One of the things that you can do is it looks like a desktop, a very clean desktop, I assure you. My desktop is not that clean, but there's a computer sitting on the desktop. If you click on the triangle that's on the computer screen, that starts the live show playing. Or it will start the most recently recorded live show playing. And if you want to see more shows further back, what you can do is click on the memo tab that's in the upper left-hand corner, and you can look at the 100 most recent shows that we've done. Now, to the side of all that is something we call the live feature. If you put your cursor in the box that says your question, all you have to do is type and hit enter. You don't have to log in. There's no username. There's no password. There's no credit card. It's totally free. It's totally anonymous. But we don't have any way of getting back to you other than answering your question on the live show. So we can ask you questions here. But if you're not watching it live, here are the things that help us. If you give us an idea of where you are in the world, not looking for your street address, but if you tell me you're in Tennessee, that's very, very different than being in Dubai, and the resources that I will tell you about will be very, very different. So give us a general idea of where in the world you are, just like Carmen San Diego. And if you want us to get back to you specifically, you can leave private information. No one will see it unless I make it possible for them to see it, and I won't do that if you put personal information in there. I'm very, very paranoid about that. Okay, I also like to remind you at the start of the show, and then we're going to do the thing that we start the show with. But I also like to remind you, we have lots of guests who are here on the show with us. We've got some wonderful guests for you today, experts and individuals that have something really fabulous to give you. I just want to make sure that we always remember to tell you that I am not one of the experts. I am an autism parent, a proud autism mom. My son was diagnosed at the age of 2.5, and he's now about to be 14. Somebody resuscitate me. Where does the time go? But I got a lot of help and support along the way. I had people who held my hand and said, you could do this, and people who showed me this is the way that I did it. In fact, one of my heroes is going to be on in the second half of the show, somebody who really wrote the book that changed my life, right? So, but I do want to remind you, I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody who cares passionately, wants to help you to get to those resources that help you to have your life fulfilled in the way that you want it to, so that you get to the resources and the help and support that are for you or for someone you love, someone that you care about deeply. All right? Sound like a good plan? Remember, si se puede. Hold hands, we get through this together. All right, having said that, it's time for the jargon of the day. This is what we do to start off the show on Thursdays. We take one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what exactly are the experts talking about, and more importantly, why. What does this have to do with anything under the sun? Why do I need to learn this silly jargon term? How is it going to help me? We first give you the actual definition, and then I generally like to make fun of it because usually the actual definitions are about as useful as the least imaginable useful thing. I can't even say what I'm thinking of because I'm editing in my head. There's a phrase that my mother used to use, it's not for this format. It's not useful is what I'm trying to say. Then we give you a working definition, which hopefully it probably makes the BCBAs break out into hives, but hopefully it helps you to be able to get an idea of, oh, that's why this is useful to me. All right. So our jargon term for the day is perseveration. All right. I don't know about you, but this is not a word that I used in my run-of-the-mill conversation before my son was diagnosed with autism. I remember going to something that an autism expert was talking about something, and she was handing out jelly beans. And then there was a moment where she could tell that she kind of lost the audience, and she said, "Oh, are you all perseverating on the jelly beans now?" And I thought, oh, this woman and I would never be friends. Who uses perseveration in a sentence just in your everyday life? People who are talking about autism. A lot. Those are the people that use this. And what does it mean? And I think it's really important to not only know what it means, but why we should know what it means. Okay, so let's take a look at our actual definition of perseveration. Perseveration, a failure of the brain to switch ideas along with the social context, often resulting in a pathological and persistent repetition of words or gestures after they have ceased to be socially relevant or appropriate. Okay, I kind of really I think we can all understand what this particular definition says, but I kind of hate it. Like, it just feels very stick in the mud to me. And somebody, whoever wrote this is not the person that we're all going to want to spend time with on a Saturday, right? Can we just agree on that? And it also, it lets out some certain things for me. So let's talk about the working definition. Perseveration, the functionless repetition of a behavior or response, such as repeating a word or a phrase or making a gesture when it's no longer appropriate. Okay, so, and I think it's really important when we talk about perseveration to talk about the fact that it's perseveration when it doesn't have a purpose. I don't like when we say that it doesn't have a social context, because social context means that it doesn't have a purpose for anybody else. When we all perseverate, let's be really honest about this. It's not just individuals who are on the autism spectrum. We all perseverate on things. I can think of one person that I went to college with that when her boyfriend broke up with her, it was the thing for 2 years that if you were ever within 50 feet of her, you would have that conversation about he broke up with her and why he broke up with her and why he done her wrong, right? It was a perseveration. It wasn't serving a purpose for anybody, including her, anymore. Now, we always say there's a function to the behavior, so she must have been getting something from it, but it wasn't functional what she was getting, okay? So that's sort of the line here. It's not really functional, and it was driving people crazy there, so it was socially inappropriate. But we all perseverate on something at some point. Where I get antsy about it is that sometimes people mistake passion for perseveration. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today is what is the difference between the two, and how do we help people to embrace their passions, and maybe a little bit of perseveration around a passion is okay, but if we're monitoring, is it functional, is it not? I can think of one gentleman that I know that when he was a kid, back in the 50s, all he ever wanted to do was watch television. As soon as his family got a television, that's all he ever wanted to do. And he would wait till his parents would go to sleep, and then he would get up and crawl into the television room, turn on the TV to watch whatever was on until the signal went off at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And he would do that every single night, and his parents never knew. And when his parents would constantly say to him, "We don't want you watching television all the time. It's not good for you." Even in the 50s, they were saying things like that. Well, he went on to be a television executive and a producer of films for television. His whole life is television, and he makes quite a bit of money doing it. We think of somebody like Eddie Murphy, who was told to, stop cracking jokes and, straighten up and fly right and quit kidding around. Really? Because that was his passion. So I think as people in the autism community, I think we got to be really careful about trying to look at perseveration in a way that says, okay, we'll look at what really has no context and what really has no social function, but let's look at it through, is there a way that this could be functional? Is there a way that this could be a passion that could be fed, that could lead to a career, that could lead to a life, that could lead to happiness? I think that that's super duper important to look at. My 2 cents. Okay, we have always a question of the day for you. Our question today, you ready for this? Dun, da, da, da. What do you perseverate about? What are the things that you get stuck on? And maybe you want to think of this in 2 different categories. What are the things that you get stuck on that you wish you didn't, right? But what are the things that you get stuck on that are deeply pleasurable and that you really kind of love? Give me a seed catalog, an organic, non-GMO seed catalog, and I can perseverate on that. I really can. For long periods of times. But, it's okay because there is a level of function to it. And here's the other thing. When I absolutely have to, I can break my attention from it. We do want to make sure that when we're feeding a passion, that we make sure that there are breaks and that it's possible to take breaks. Maybe not as often as other people think, but possible to take breaks. So what do you perseverate on? What are the things that you get stuck on and that you find deeply pleasurable to go over and over and over again? And what are the things that you get stuck on that you go over and over and over again that you wish you could just turn that thing in that part of your brain off and it would stop? Let's talk about it a little bit later on. All right, our topic for the week, can you guess? It's all about nurturing a passion, not an obsession, and understanding what the difference between the 2 of them is. A huge difference, and one leads to happiness and the other leads to being unhappy, unfulfilled, and in some cases isolating. All right, so to that end, some of the different things that we're having here on the show. In just a few minutes, we've got a fabulous guest that I got to meet this morning. Cameron Day is here with us, and he is a wonderful 17-year-old performer, and he's gonna do a little performing for us this morning, and we're gonna talk with him about what it is like being a teen, what it is like being a teen performer, and so that'll be just in a few minutes. Then it says here that we have Bonnie Yates because we found out later that we don't have Bonnie Yates. But we're thrilled that she is with Temple Grandin right now, so we're all gonna think happy thoughts about that a little bit later on in the show. As I said, one of my heroes, Christina Adams, is the author of the book A Real Boy. Normally I have a book here and I would hold it up, but here's the truth of, and she's probably not going to be happy with me about this, but I have gone through, I would say probably 12 different copies because I get this book and I keep it for myself. And I think the last one that I had, Christina brought me a copy and signed it. But here's what happens. I can't hold on to them because they are such a fabulous gift that I give them to someone. I lend them to somebody else because that's how I got my first copy, and it changes your life, but often you don't get them back. So I currently don't have one on my shelf, which is a bummer, but it means I gave it to somebody and they needed it. Great book, A Real Boy, but it doesn't end there. Christina is an amazing autism parent who wrote her story in a beautiful way that has changed my life. Um, and we'll talk more about that later, but Christina has continued to do a lot of things. There's a new series that we've done here called Autism and Beyond. We're going to debut the new episode of that later today. And Christina has a passion for camel milk. And she's going to talk to us about why that is and why that is such a passion of hers and what that has to do with autism. But there's so many other things to talk about. She's just a wealth of information. She's super fun. So that will be a little bit later on the show. And of course, always we will have our mindfulness moment and we will have our autism in the classroom moment because it's Thursday. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Cameron Day is going to be here. You're going to love him. And we'll have a nice conversation with him. And I understand he's going to do a monologue for us from an August Wilson play. So get ready. We're going all cultural today here at Autism Live. Stick with us. Back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Kara Kaczynski, the Pocket Occupational Therapist, and we're here in Dallas, Texas at the Future Horizons Autism Super Conference. So the book is the Special Needs School Survival Guide, and it's everything you wanted to know about school. It is, okay, so it starts out with just different diagnoses that you might see, and then I explain them in clear terms, no technical jargon, and then each little diagnosis area has about, 50 to 100 activities that you can do at home or at school or cheaply and effectively. So it's just full of information that you can use right now. And the cool thing about it is at the end of every chapter are resources that you can use and access in the internet from a computer. And it's not just for kids with any diagnoses either. It's for kids that are just having trouble with handwriting or with dressing in school or transitions too. Well, both of my kids are on the autism spectrum, so it's important to me that when I learn something for other people, as I research it for occupational therapy, I want to try it at home. So then I take what works and I put it in a book, and what doesn't work, it's thrown out the window. And the other thing is I've just started to research for webinars because our kids, if our kids are aging, so they start out these cute little babies with autism and now they're getting to be teenagers and young adults, and we need help with modifying the environment for them, transition planning, and especially for IEP goal writing, for functional things that they can work on, not just handwriting, but then going beyond into the transition to young adulthood. Yeah, the misnomer at this point in the school systems is that we just do handwriting. So we are actually not handwriting teachers. We can modify or help rectify a grip that's inefficient. So if a child doesn't have that nice, pretty little tripod grasp, we can help to get that. However, when the kid's in 2nd or 3rd grade, then we look at efficiency. So if the grasp is efficient, if it's a quadrupod grasp or if it's some kind of funky grasp and the child can write efficiently, then we leave it alone. But if not, then we go to electronic accommodations. So OTs then can look at keyboarding and what kinds of keyboards would fit the student best. Also sensory processing, as the kids get older, it looks different. So we can look at sensory processing as it relates to function in the school. And then we also can look at behavior and transition planning. Other things we can do is work on seating. So if the child's having trouble sitting still in the classroom, we can modify that too. So not just handwriting, not just sensory, but we look at behavior, transitions, so anything that affects that student's school day. Right, so that's a really good question because sensory processing disorder did not make it into the last DSM, which is the way that medical professionals classify disorders. So it did make it into the classification under autism, but sensory processing disorder is very confusing, and a lot of therapists treat it differently. So the general overview is that sensory processing is either a heightened response to stimuli in the environment or a too low, which is hypo, response. So if the student perceives perceives every noise around them is equally as important, or every feeling. So I'm sitting here, I can feel the chair, my sweater, the noise around me, then it's hard to concentrate and focus in the classroom on what you're supposed to be paying attention to. So we would use something, maybe a suggestion could be a weighted lap pad or some kind of fidget tool for the student to fidget with, or we can even look at special positioning in the classroom, so preferred seating. Then with sensory, transitions can be hard because any unexpected bump in the classroom or in line can set the child off into a fight or flight, which is when they really have a tantrum and freak out. So when they're in a fight or flight mode, they may fly off the handle for no apparent reason, maybe just being bumped by another student. So it's our job to be detectives and to figure out why the student is having that meltdown. So my CDs were created for my own kids my son in kindergarten didn't like the fire drills. So he was afraid to even step foot into the classroom because the fire alarm may sound. Of course, the school's not going to say, oh, let's just set off the fire alarm for your son, Bob. So we thought, where can we get a fire alarm? So we went into a recording studio and picked a whole plethora of sounds that you couldn't control, fireworks, thunder, sirens, and we put them on a CD, and I wrote nursery rhymes, changing the words to blender, blender, it's okay, or different little, Mary had a little lamb is, something to do with thunder. So they're kind of fun, and that way the student can control the volume of the sound. It's not a listening therapy, there's no headphones involved. It's just a fun way to control sounds that you normally couldn't control. So they're for sale at my website, thepocketot.com.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so excited because joining us live in the studio, we have a young man who's very inspirational. Cameron Day is here with us, and I've been having a really wonderful time visiting with Cameron. Cameron is a performer.
Yes.
He's a triple threat. This is what I'm finding out.
Yes.
He's an actor and a singer, and you dance as well, or you're
I'm working on it.
You're
yes.
working on it.
Yes.
Well, you can be a triple threat, but you can't be perfect at all of them. Usually there's one that is a little bit more got to be worked on.
Right.
And it's respectable for it to be dance, so don't worry
Yes.
about that. So Cameron, you're 17.
Yes, I am.
And so you're a junior in high school, but
Yes.
you are performing, and we've been talking today about passion.
Yes.
And how people have a right to be passionate about the things that they're passionate about.
Absolutely.
So, and I have gleaned already that what you are passionate about is musical theater.
Yes.
Which is a very exciting thing. Now, it's a footnote here because the show is called Autism Live.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to tell people, but not belabor it, that
Right.
you have a diagnosis
Yes,
on
I
the
am.
autism spectrum.
Yes.
But there's so much more to you than that, and that's what we want to focus on.
Yes.
So I understand. When was the first time that you knew that you loved performing?
Well, the first time I discovered that I love performing was at a very young age. I used to actually sing myself to sleep.
Really?
when I was like 2 months old. Yes. And
Now, was it you were 2 months old, so it was a tune of your own making then?
Well, I wasn't like 2 months old, but I must have. I was.
You were young.
I was pretty young. Yes.
Okay. And then, did your mom say that when you just sang a lot when you were a little kid?
Yes.
Well, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And were there specific things that you liked to sing, or would you make up your own songs? What?
Mostly, I would sing a lot of Broadway show tunes because because I've always been a Disney fan and I watch all of the Disney films and.
Okay, so I'm a Disney film fan too. What's your favorite all-time Disney?
Oh gosh, it has to be The Lion King.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, and have you had an opportunity to see The Lion King?
Yes.
On stage?
Yes.
And I'm sure that was a pretty big. I love it. Do you love The Lion King?
It's such a phenomenal show.
Right?
Yes.
I love puppets, so the whole way that they use those huge animal puppet things makes me very, very happy in The Lion King.
And like, even though it's the same show, like seeing it like multiple, like in the amount of times that I've seen it, it never gets old.
Right.
It's
How
like,
could it? It's pretty timeless. And there's a lot of young performers that are
Yes.
used in that show. So that's probably a very exciting thing too. But so you started liking Disney things, and then that sort of lent itself towards making the move to Broadway, because one of the things that Disney has done, because back in my day, Disney wasn't doing a lot of Broadway shows,
Right.
but somewhere around in the 90s they said, hey, this makes sense.
Right.
Let's take things like Lion King and make a stage
And Beauty and the
version of-
Beast.
and Beauty and the Beast, and
Right.
so many other things now that they've done, and they take them to Broadway. So you started getting interested in Broadway musicals.
Yes.
And you've been to New York.
Multiple times, yes.
And we were just talking before about The Color Purple.
Yes.
Before we came live on the air, we were talking about, but you mentioned that you had been to see a little show that hasn't done so well that nobody's heard of. Called
It's won 11 Tony Awards,
Right.
don't get me wrong.
Hamilton.
Yes.
And what did you think when you saw Hamilton?
Oh, that show.
Yeah.
It has a mind of its own, really, and just the way, even though there's a lot of rapping in the show.
Yes.
And like you think you like when shout out to my mom. Hi, mom. She when she first saw the show, she was just like, how am I gonna follow this? And
Right.
like there's no way I'm gonna follow the rap. But then once you sit down,
Yeah.
it all just falls into place.
I gotta say, a lot of times I'm not a big rap fan
Right.
person. I'm of the age of people who usually aren't, and I can hear myself saying things that my mother used to say. I'll say, I don't understand what they're saying. My
Right.
mother used to say
Exactly.
that all
That's
the time, right.
Right.
And I'm a big, we were talking before, Cameron and I, about the fact that my background is theater, and that I have an MFA in theater.
Right.
And what I didn't tell you is I used to teach college theater. That was
Right.
one of the things. I used to be a professor teaching college theater, and I'm a big fan of. When I go to the theater, I need to be able to see,
Right.
and I need to be able to hear.
Right.
And a lot of times now, with all the microphones and everything, actors get lazy and they don't
Yes.
articulate, and you can't understand what they're saying.
And sometimes during like the big songs, like you're expecting so much, but then sometimes they
Well, exactly. And I've gotten to see a lot of Broadway theater and a lot of professional theater, and I was afraid when I heard that they were going to rap Hamilton,
Yeah.
and it's going to be about history,
Right.
everybody would be lost. But every time, and I've not yet seen it live on stage, but I've seen lots of clips but I'm amazed the actors articulate like crazy.
And I actually have a friend who was actually in the show.
Really?
Yes.
And do they ever talk about how much work they have to do to be able to be heard and understood?
Yes.
So what I love about this is that so many young actors are so passionate about Hamilton that I think it's going to breed a bunch of actors in this next generation who won't be mushmouth actors.
Right.
Like clearly you have good articulation. Is it something that you work on because of that?
All the time, because I do stutter a lot, and
I haven't heard a
is-
stutter. I don't think anybody has. So you're
Well.
working on it and it's working.
Right.
Amazing. But I would imagine that that's because you have a passion for this. And this
Yes.
is one of the things that we're talking about today is when you have a passion for something, you will spend hours on it. Like what kinds of things do you do to work on articulation? Do you do a lot of tongue twisters or?
Well, actually, shout out to the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts, my school.
Yes.
The theater program is they teach you, like they're very specific on what you need, and like they like we have a dialects class, and like we also have a lot of like acting for camera, and like a ton of acting stuff.
Okay.
And they really work with you to project and really articulate well, so you can be heard throughout the theater, and they're really good about that. So.
It's an important thing. I think it's
Yes.
one of the, we have to see and we have to hear, right?
Right.
You could be doing a great job performing, but if I can't see you and I can't hear you, I don't know what you're doing,
Right.
Well, I love that. And you're a great singer.
Yes.
And we're not going to make you sing here on the show, but you had said that you'd be willing to do a monologue
Yes.
from an August Wilson play.
Yes.
So which August Wilson play are we hearing from today?
I'm doing the Corey monologue from Fences. It's the funeral scene. I know the funeral scene. It's
Okay.
not a really good topic, but
That's okay.
so
All right. So are you in the mood to do that now?
yeah, sure.
All right. So you take your time. This is Cameron Day doing Corey from Fences.
Thank you. The whole time I was growing up, living in his house, Papa was like a shadow that followed you everywhere. It weighed on you and sunk into your flesh. It would wrap around you and lay there until you couldn't tell which one was you anymore. That shadow digging into your flesh, trying to crawl in, trying to live through you. Everywhere I looked, Troy Maxon was staring right back at me. Hiding under the bed, in the closet. I'm just saying I've got to find a way to get rid of that shadow, Mama. Don't tell me that, Mama. But I don't want to be Troy Maxon, Mama. I want to be me. Yeah, so that's it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I promised you guys we're
Yes.
going all cultural today.
Yes.
Fabulous. I think we should take a short break, and then we want to come back and talk about what it's like being a teenager, what it's like being in high school, because we don't often get high school students in here, and I think it's an important topic. We have a lot of people who are watching who have kids who are in high school, and they're tough years.
Especially the junior year is very tough.
And I would imagine that being interested in theater and acting is something that is useful and helpful towards that. But we'll see what you think on that after these messages. Stick with us.
Okay.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with 17-year-old performer Cameron Day. He just graced us with a lovely monologue from Fences.
Yes.
But he is also a singer. We don't want to leave that out of it. And as we mentioned at the top, you know, part of the reason why Cameron is here with us today is because he's so talented, but also we want a reference point for you that he also has a diagnosis on the autism spectrum. We don't want to make it about that, but you know, I mean, that I think our audience will be so inspired to see the kinds of things that you're doing, knowing that. But we wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about, since you're here, about the high school years, because it can be a really rough time, and it can be a rough time for anyone. I only know one person that refers to their high school years and says, "Oh, what a wonderful time."
Yes.
And I gotta say, the rest of her life has been difficult because high school was good for her and easy for her because she was a cheerleader and everything else has been hard for her ever since.
Right.
Everybody else I know, high school was hard, and other things in life have been easier than high school. So from the perspective of somebody who's in high school, what are some of the challenges that are really hard in high school?
Oh gosh. Well, for me, the junior year, well, actually, freshman and sophomore year weren't that hard for me because that was sort of like the beginning process of high school education, because like that's when they sort of like more like laid back on you and
not as much pressure.
Yes. And then once you get into the junior and senior years, that's when they really start to buckle down on you and say, this is what you need to do. And like, we're going to teach you like how to do these certain things. But for me, I'm just like, I'm not trying to throw my teachers under the bus.
We're not throwing anybody under the bus this morning, but yes.
So, like, teachers just want you to do well, and but sometimes some teachers aren't really like great. Like, they know what they're doing, but they can't really re-explain it to students sometimes,
Okay.
and I and like for me, I really like a teacher that knows what they're doing and then can go back again and actually explain how they
Yes.
got it. So.
Yes. You know why part of the reason that the junior year is so hard,
Yes.
right? Because it's what colleges look
It's
at.
basically the pinnacle of,
Yeah.
of like.
Yeah, it's what everybody looks at. And I think you're going to find, I hope you're going to find that it gets, especially, there's the first half of senior year where it'll still be hard because you're getting in your applications and stuff.
Right.
Second half of the senior year is,
That's what I've heard.
it's a trip to Disneyland, and so to speak. So you're almost there.
Right.
You're at the end of the junior year, and you
Yes.
have one more semester that will be kind of, but you're pretty much there.
Yeah.
But let's talk about socially,
Okay.
because there are some things about the social life of a high schooler that are, as we said, hard for anyone. And figuring out how to fit in is a tough road. Has theater helped you to be able to fit in?
Yes, and more importantly, it's really helped me to like accept how things are, because a lot of times I think I'll think someone won't doesn't like me, and then I'll go back and just like, in reality,
That's not the case.
the future might not be so bright for them, but
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Like,
But do you find at your school that there are groups that it's like, okay, here are the kids who play sports, and here are the kids who
we don't
are
actually
artists?
have we don't
You
have
that?
we don't.
Oh, because you're at a school where it's all for the performing
Yes,
arts.
but there are some sports fans who do play basketball and like are into sports and everything. But I usually stay within the people that like theater and like the arts and everything.
Yes.
So.
And do you feel like I feel like there's a certain amount of freedom. If you're with a group of people that are artists,
Yes.
it means that you get to be unique.
Yes.
So do you feel like with your group of friends that you get to just be Cameron, and however Cameron shows up, they're going to accept?
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the best gifts that a friend can do is look at you for who. Because I do think that for most people, high school is about fitting in. But if you belong to a group of artists,
Right.
maybe not.
And in reality, we're all people, and sometimes you might get along like one day and then.
Yes.
But it's really because of the stress. Because during school, like a lot of my friends are like so stressed out because we have like a lot of assignments and everything. But when we get to arts, we all come together as one.
Right.
And then we can all express ourselves the way we want to.
Yeah.
And really like make something pure and absolutely beautiful.
So what do you want for the future? Like what's in store for you? When you look forward, what are you thinking about?
Being a professional musical theater performer and actually going out and audition, and because a lot of times for auditions you don't always get the gig.
Right.
That always happens all the time for all actors.
So you want to do musical theater,
Yes.
live theater.
Yes, and a little bit I do want to do TV. I just want to do like everything that has to involve like theater and like and everything in the theatrical world and everything.
Okay. So some television, some film.
Yeah.
You're open to the whole thing.
And movies too.
You're not above doing a commercial. Say you do a commercial.
Hey, I can do a commercial if they call me. I'm just
That's
like
right. Okay.
I'm just like I'm open for anything. So.
And so, do you feel like, are you gonna go directly from high school to performing, or are you thinking you're gonna go to college first?
I think I should go to college first just to get a little bit more rounded and like gain some more technique and like actually broaden that horizon more.
Yes.
And then after that, then we'll be ready.
Okay. I love that.
Take that out.
I'm a big fan of going to college. And
We should go to college, kids.
And
so.
I'm a big fan of going to college when you want to study performing arts.
Yes.
Obviously, I mean that's the thing that I'm a big fan of. But it doesn't mean that you can't still be working professionally
Right.
while you're doing that.
Because I've done some projects already. I actually did Where's the Love, the sequel to Where's the Love part by will.i.am and the Black Eyed Peas, and that was really fun to do.
And so you were in the music video?
Yes, I was in the children's chorus at the very end.
Oh, how wonderful!
And I was singing like throughout the video.
And so if there's parents that are out there that are watching, that are thinking about putting their kids in an acting class, what would you say to them?
Do it. Do it.
Has it helped you with your self-esteem
Yes.
and with social circumstances? And do you ever, I know that I was very shy as a kid. And so my parents put me into acting classes. And what I learned in an acting class was it didn't matter what I felt inside,
Yes.
that if I said a certain thing, stood a certain way, people would think that I wasn't shy. So I learned early on, okay, in this instance, I'm going to pretend that I'm not shy. Did you learn something like that that helped you to overcome any difficulties?
Well, actually, since I'm on the spectrum, like they said, I use those things to help me, actually be able to go up on stage and have well, am I saying that correctly?
I don't. It's all your words. It does help you.
It does help you be more open for whatever comes to you and actually be brighter and
so that in the moment you can react to what's happening instead of being rehearsed.
yes, and
I love that.
and it also helps in the real world because a lot of times a lot of kids who are on the spectrum are shy, so it really helps to break them out of their shell and become more open and more personable.
Yeah, well, it has been so delightful to talk to you. And when I got to meet you earlier this morning, we immediately went right into conversations about all kinds of things. And it's clear that this is something that you're really passionate about.
Yes.
I think that you're doing a remarkable job. I think it's thrilling that you're here, and I know that it's been inspirational to people to see how, you're living the dream. You're
Yes.
getting to do what you want to do. And that's what acting isn't going to be everybody's thing, but I would encourage everybody who's watching at least try putting your child in an acting class. See if it's something, even if they don't want to be a professional actor, I think it's something that's useful and helpful. And I can't wait to, because I know that you're going to do really well. And then later on, when you're a big star, you have to be willing to come back and say that, we had you on the show back when you
Right.
weren't a big star, but that we recognized that you were going to be a big star. Is it a deal?
It's a deal.
Okay. Anything else you want to share with the folks at home?
And actually, one more thing. My family didn't come from a theatrical background. They actually started in music because my dad and my mom were big. Well, my mom was a backup singer, and my dad is still a professional singer right now.
So it's in the genes, you're telling me.
Yes.
This performing thing is very much in the genes.
And my brother is a singer as well.
Really?
Yes.
So it's sort of the family business.
Yes, basically.
What's wonderful about that is that they will understand your passion.
Yes.
And they won't think that you're crazy
Yeah.
for wanting to do this.
Yes.
And that's a gift, because not everybody gets it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and I got a chance to meet your mom, and she's a pretty remarkable woman. So they're very supportive of everything that you're doing.
Very. Even though you
Now, don't throw her under the bus. We got all this far. Don't throw her under the bus.
I won't.
At this point, we can't have that. I said
Right.
to him, "No throwing your mom under the bus," and you wouldn't have anyway.
I would never.
She's a fabulous person.
Yes.
But I interrupted you. You wanted to say something.
Even though the theater industry can there does get it gets stressful a lot and sometimes you get a little frustrated and sometimes you just say, okay, my life is over, I'm done with this, and I've had that a few times and where I haven't felt that supported that much, but I know deep down inside that I still am. So that's
Yes. Well, we always do a jargon term of the day, and our jargon term today was perseverating. But I do think that to be able to be successful in acting, you have to persevere. And I will tell you that you can have a whole bunch of people who are surrounding you and supporting you and doing whatever. But if you don't believe it in yourself, then it won't matter, because it doesn't matter. Every single actor who is wildly successful has been turned down a million more times than they got the job.
Yes.
And they had to be able to get past that. And not everybody can, but if you can, I think you'll be wildly successful. We'll put that mojo on you. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and we'll look forward to having you back again sometime soon.
All right.
We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, it's going to be time for the mindfulness moment of the Thursday, so stick with us.
What would you do if your child was hurting?
If your family's future was uncertain.
If help seemed out of reach.
Have you been given no hope?
Taka means I am not alone in this.
This is the reality for families affected by autism. And today, the number of children with autism is growing more rapidly than ever. Taka unites these families and ensures that they do not have to fight this battle alone.
Our oldest son, Jared, who has autism, when we first took him to the doctor to get the diagnosis, it's so sad because they offer you nothing. There's no help, there's no hope. One of the things that you learn with autism is being very grateful for even the small milestones. When you first get the diagnosis, you go through all the range of emotions. This can't be happening. Why is this happening? You have to get to a point where it's the emotion that has to be leading is, what can I do? The first thing that struck me was walking to a room and seeing, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And there is this very strong community that's already set. And something I still today associate with Taka the most is hope. To me, that's what Taka means. Taka means hope.
It's like you've got all these dreams and goals of what your son's gonna do, and you get your diagnosis and you're sent home. And that's it. There's no plan of action. There's no, here's autism, here's what we're gonna do to make your life better and help him. It's strictly go home and try to process it and go on the internet. It was devastating, and you just, you go through this 3-week of depression, and then you snap out of it. You have to. And then you start making phone calls and trying to figure out what is autism and what are we gonna do? And then we found Taka, and it was life-changing.
Autism, there really is no definitive answer. It is trying to find the resources that are out there that can assist you to help your child so that, you just don't feel so helpless at those particular moments.
There was direction, and there was hope, and there was a little ray of sunshine that he's gonna be okay, and we're gonna be okay. I always look back and think we would never be where we are. Carson wouldn't be where he is at without Taka.
So 13 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism, and that put our whole family into a tailspin. There were so many different ideas and things that were not proven. Nobody knew what guidance to give us. We had no direction. And then we found Taka. They helped give us a path to follow, help give our son a better future and make him healthy and put him back onto the road of recovery. When your son's first diagnosed, the first thing you hope for is, gosh, I just want my son to speak. I just want to be able to communicate with him in some way. Then you want a little more. You want him to go to a regular school. Then you want him to potentially have a real life and go to college. So you're always hoping for the future of your child. My son is a happy, healthy, vibrant young boy that's going to turn 15 really soon, and we couldn't be more pleased. And without Taka, I don't think we'd be in the place that we are today. We believe the future is not defined for many affected by autism. There is hope and direction for these kids and their families. Taka is dedicated to providing community, support, education, and hope to families affected by autism.
At Taka?
At Taka.
At Taka.
We are families with autism helping.
Helping.
Helping families.
Helping families with autism.
Hi, my name is Matt. I am 19 years old, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 6 years old. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in the United States, but I am living proof that with the right treatment, hope is possible. My future is not limited. Today, I am attending Fullerton Community College, and I run for the cross-country team for fun with my friends. It makes me feel proud when I think about my progress. Chances are you know someone affected by autism. Show them they are not alone, and help others get on the road to recovery. Contribute to talk about curing autism today.
Welcome back to Autism Live. On Thursdays, we like to have a mindfulness moment because we know that this is a stressful road with autism, right? Whether you're the parent, the teacher, the practitioner, or the individual who's on the autism spectrum, you're going to run into some stress in life anyway, right? But with autism, sometimes there's an extra added layer of stress. And we're learning that for all of us, mindfulness is a way that we can reduce that stress. So we like to take just a couple of minutes on Thursdays to give you a hint or a tip or something that either we know works or there have been studies on. So today I want to talk to you about the power of 5. That we're all the time trying to teach ourselves and our kiddos what's appropriate to react to emotionally in a given moment. Because if we don't have a measurement of saying, okay, my car just got hit by a truck. It's not good, right? But it's not the worst thing in the world that could happen. Then we will react to everything as if it's the worst thing that happens, or we'll react to everything as if it's no big deal, right? And we need to gauge how big of a deal is this basically for all of us? And that's the way we get to self-regulation, so that we don't constantly freak out about every little thing that there is. So a lot of times we'll make a visual thing for small kiddos that shows maybe a thermometer or a sliding scale of something to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, doctors do this all the time with patients. On a scale of 1 to 10, where's your pain? And that you need to be honest about it, but then we need to give context to it, to our kiddos who are on the autism spectrum and to ourselves. So the power of 5 comes in with that we can think to ourselves, if we have enough life experience. So this is for our older kids. This isn't something that you would do with a 5-year-old per se. But maybe with a 15-year-old, you can say to them, okay, you're upset about this, and I understand that you're upset about this, because we always want to leave room for the fact that feelings are real and we get to experience them, right? But are you going to be upset about this in 5 minutes? And often the response is, yes, I fully plan to. I think I'm going to be upset about this in 5 minutes. You go, okay, reasonable. Do you think you're going to be upset about this in 5 hours? And they might say, yes, no, I'm 100% sure I'm going to be upset about this in 5 hours. Do you think you're going to be upset about this in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? And we kind of go through, and the first time you're going through this, and while you're having the emotion, your answer is probably going to be yes on all of them, right? And that's okay, and we don't need to argue that. But especially when we're doing this with a kiddo, we want to check back. And so 5 minutes later, are you still upset about it? 5 hours later, so how do you feel about that now? And reference it for them. Because the truth of the matter is that the things that we get upset about, especially if they're not the big deals in life, we're not upset about it 5 minutes later, 5 hours later, certainly not 5 weeks ago or 5 months or 5 years. Often I will find myself saying to somebody, I'll do this with myself and go, okay, wait a second. Is this something I'm going to be upset about in 5 days? And I think, yes, I'm going to be upset about it. And 5 days later, I'm like, what was it I was upset about? I don't even remember what it was. Like, I was so convinced that I was going to be upset about it. And what it does is it gives you a context so that further down the road, sometimes when you're in the moment and you're upset about something and you say, I feel like I'm going to be upset about it in 5 minutes. I feel like I'm going to be upset about it in 5 hours, but I know from past experience that this kind of a thing, I'm not upset about it in 5 hours. And it kind of unplugs the gas from it so that usually you're not even upset about it in 5 minutes. In the moment, any emotion can feel overwhelming and like it's going to feel this way forever. And I've only ever felt this way, right? I think we've all experienced that. So that's why we give it that broader context. Am I going to be upset about this in 5 minutes? Am I going to be upset about this in 5 hours? Am I going to be upset about this in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? And, sometimes you can do it in shorter because you don't need all of them because you go, I'm not going to be upset about it in 5 weeks. I know I'm not. Giving it a context, is this the worst thing that could happen? I will tell you that my son is so much better at this than I am because he learned it earlier. If we start with our little kiddos, things will happen. We were at Disneyland once, and one of his neurotypical friends was there, and the mom was having to explain that the railroad ride was being worked on, and so we were not going to get to ride it. And, you would have thought that the world had come to an end. And my son, who was 7 on the autism spectrum, nudged me and said, wow, he's acting like it's the end of the world. It's not. He's going to get to ride it again. It's disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. 7. So practice the rule of 5 for yourself and teach it to your kiddos, and then go back and reteach it and bring it up then once they have a context for it, and you'll see that it pulls the emotion out of stress. It makes you mindful about what's happening. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back in just a few minutes. We've got our Autism in the Classroom moment, and don't forget we have Christina Adams joining us in the next hour, so stick with us. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We like to do a segment on Thursdays whenever we can squeeze it in that we call Autism in the Classroom, because more and more I see that our teachers want and need tools, things that they can do in the classroom, and more parents are asking, what tools can I give a teacher to help them to be successful in educating my child? Because former teacher, I believe that all good teachers always want to learn. they're never done learning. They never think that they've arrived and that there's nothing left to learn. That would be crazy talk, right? But if we give teachers tools, if we continue to educate them and give them tools and give them in an easy format, then we all get more done. So today's Autism in the Classroom tool is about having visual schedules. And we talk about this a lot on the show. And I think people get a little like, oh, it's so exhausting. Do we have to have a visual schedule for everything? And why is it so important? You know, I remember when I was a classroom teacher, especially when I was teaching high school, that every day as the kids would come in to the classroom, they would say, what are we doing today? All of them. And they were big classes. Sometimes it was more than 40 kids. What are we doing today? And most of the time I had either something up on this will really date me. We still had overhead projectors instead of smart boards back at that time. I would usually have something up on the board that would talk a little bit about what we were going to be doing through the day, and I would point to it, save my voice, and I'd go, you know. But they would still ask. And I used to marvel at it. And somebody pointed out to me once, though, when I was struggling with my son, that I was like, you know, we need to do this, you know, come on, let's just go. And he didn't want to, I was getting pushback, right? Loggerheads. You know, it's like, why can't you just do what I'm asking you to do? And somebody pointed out to me, do you like it when you are put into a car and you don't know where you're going? Is that something that you would find pleasurable? I'm like, well, no, I'd like to know where I'm going. I don't want to be just stuffed into a car and, you know, and nobody tells me what we're doing. That would be horrible. I don't even like it when I'm driving the car and somebody else has the directions and I use Waze now and I love Waze, but I wish Waze was a little bit the prompt would come a little bit earlier, because you know, it'll say get off on exit 23C, and I'm on the ramp to 23C, and I don't know which lane I need to get in because I don't know if I'm turning right or left, and I'm like, come on, Waze. Usually I'll make my son read me what's happening next, and he says, why don't you just wait until the woman tells you what to do? Well, she's a little late for me, and I want to know, where am I going? Because you know what happens when I don't know where I'm going? My anxiety goes up. That's what happens to most of us. Our anxiety goes up. Who wants to just, you know, go through life and have no idea what's happening next? I don't know anybody who likes that sense, that lack of control when you're in somebody else's environment. Maybe you like that lack of schedule on a Saturday, when it's you that ultimately is deciding it, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to walk down here and see what happens. But that's still on your terms. So when we have kids on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, coming into a classroom, we're effectively saying to them, you're here and you don't have a choice about it for the next however many hours. And we're going to tell you what you're going to do, and we're going to set the rules. Who would like that? Nobody would like that. Now, we need to do that. We can't just say, oh, you know, everybody go in the corner and we hope that you learn something, right? That's not shown to be effective. So how do we meet in the middle? Well, one of the things that we can do to lower that anxiety and make them to feel like they have some measure of control is to have a visual schedule, something that you can point to and go, here's what's happening at this time. That's what we're going to do. It can change, but if we start from something and say, okay, here's the framework, this is what's, yes, it's tiring. Yes, it's exhausting. But it's less exhausting than having to deal with people who have anxiety. So create a visual schedule, and visual schedules, you know, I think that the kindergarten teachers have this down pat. They understand this, just like the same thing we did a segment about autism in the classroom where we talked about posting rules. The kindergarten teachers are 100% clear on this because they see directly what happens when the kids don't have these rules. They're going every which way, all of them. I think what happens is that as kids get older, some of them learn how to self-regulate themselves and will just go with the flow. And they've made a schedule in their head for themselves of, I know that we're going to do math now and we're going to do English later. And so those kids, they can, no matter what happens, they're going to follow rules, whether they're posted or not. And they're, like I said, following a schedule in their head, and they'll tell the teacher when the teacher is off, right? So I think that somewhere around 4th, 5th grade, teachers start to be that, well, you should do that on your own. Well, my question for you is, how's that working? Because for maybe a third of the class, it's not a problem. But what about the 2/3 of the class that aren't doing it? And when we get into this thing about, well, you know, you need to be able to do this for college later on, I want to say to us, let's back up for a step. Because when you go to college, you get your schedule and you are in charge of it. And you decide, okay, this hour I'm going to take this class and I've signed up for it. And this hour I get a break and I get to go to the student union and have a frozen yogurt. And this hour I get to do whatever. And I'm going to decide not to go to that class today. You are the captain of that. So if we try to get students to follow a plan that says you will arrive at this time and you don't know what will happen and we will release you at this time and say that that's realistic for life, I would argue nobody except prisoners work on that schedule as adults. They don't. So if we go back to what worked in kindergarten, we can modify what those visual schedules are. They don't have to be kindergarten terms. It can simply be, you know, something that is a schedule. I have the schedule here for the show for the week, right? It can be something like that, and students can input it in their phone. You can move to technology, but give them something to look at that shows what it is, and they will be less stressed and you will have a better time. And we'll learn more. And that's really what it's all about. All right, we're going to take a break. And then I don't know whether Christina Adams is here or not. It's a little bit early. We may have another segment before that, but stick with us. She's coming up.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids. What are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
So we're going to do down dog next. So with down dog, there are several different ways that you can do it, and I want to show you first and then help you with yours so that we can work on what feels good for you, okay? All right, because there's no right way to do it. It's more about what your body likes, all right? So for me, what I'm going to do is start off with my hands at the top of my mat, my headlights. My fingers are aiming towards the top of my mat, and then I'm going to tuck my toes, and then my head is also going to drop, and I'm going to look between my toes. Okay? And my body should be, or hopefully, like an A shape.
Or V.
Or V, yes.
Upside down V.
Yep. And so if your quads are tight or your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend your knees a little bit.
Then it's you.
Or if your shoulders are a little strained or a little tight, remember to push in through your feet. But also sometimes what feels really good is going down your forearms, like this. You can actually start out this way instead, it's a little easier. So your forearms rest on the floor. You still tuck your toes, and then you're still looking between your toes, but rather than being on your hands then, your weight's along your hands and your forearms. Okay? All right. So, now it's your turn. Okay? So, yep. You're gonna do on your hands? Okay, yep. So your fingers are facing the front of the mat. Or are you doing forearms? Forearms? Okay, there we go. Wow, you're very bendy. Very nice. And your gaze is right here between your toes. Excellent. Very nice, Jem. Wow. Awesome. Feet are a nice distance apart. How does that feel?
Okay.
Awesome. You want to come down? Excellent. Good.
Hey everybody, this is Joe Marisi. We're here live in Fullerton, California at the historic Fox Theater. And we're here tonight for the 4th annual comedy show for autism put on by the Fullerton Cares Foundation. And we're just hanging out outside the theater here, and we're going to go talk to some folks right now and see what brought them out tonight.
My name is Larry Hauser. I'm the founder of the Fullerton Cares Autism Foundation, and the one putting on this whole event. That's me and my crew.
Larry, doing this for 4 years, what is it that you like best about this event?
What I like best about this event is there's a lot of people in this area that don't normally go to like walks or any like stuffy fundraiser events. This is something that those people don't come to, but they want to support. So that's why I really love this particular event is because of that.
A lot of fun. Now, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with here?
I am the Fullerton School District Board President, and well, I'm taking a lot of the money from tonight. This is a wonderful event, and we can't wait to have the comedy and raise the money for a worthy cause.
The events, try to help raise money for the events, and seems like I said, Larry seems to do all the work and get the crew going, and he just directs us around, and we try to pick up the cash for him.
Awesome, Brian. And Brian, what is it in your 4 years coming to the event? What is it that you like the most about it?
The comedians. I mean, last year we had a full lineup. This year I think the lineup's going to be even better, and I mean, you can't beat it.
The event is the way that our community comes together, that everybody supports Fullerton Cares and supports the families that are part of Fullerton and that show up and create a really great environment for our kids to grow up in.
I'm actually out here to support my good friend Larry Hauser. Happy to be back and happy to support my buddy.
What I like the best is the amount of people that actually come out and support us and support the cause, because they know it's a good cause, it's a local cause, local charity, and so it's just nice to see the community come together for something that's for the community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm so excited because one of my heroes is here with us in the studio, and I talk lovingly about her all the time because honestly, and I said this on Facebook last night, she wrote the book that changed our lives. Now see, I'm gonna get all messy already. So Christina Adams is here, and the book is a real boy, and I am embarrassed that I don't have one here to show because I keep lending them to people because I can't not. It is the thing that when people say to me, oh, you know, I'm a new parent and I'm there with them, it's the thing that I want to put in their hands because it's the thing that the amazing Crystal Shepherd put in my hands. And it really did. It set us on the path that got us to where we are now. So first I got to say thank you to her. But Christina's amazing. and we'll talk about a real boy, but you have so many more things going on now than you did then, and there are so many ways that you've impacted the autism community. I mentioned to folks earlier that our topic today is about the difference between passion and perseveration. And I thought, who better, than you, because one of the things that you're really passionate about is camel milk. So there are many, but you're passionate about many things. So welcome.
Thank you, Shannon. I always love hanging out with you, and I will drive through no end of traffic to come and see you.
And you did. You came from quite a long way to travel to be with us. And I don't think I mentioned too that there's a new segment that we've been showing here on the show that's called Autism and Beyond with Christina Adams, because I adore her so much, and I feel like she has so much to offer to autism parents, and you have such a voice. You're a freelance writer, and you write for many different publications, and you travel the world literally and speak on these topics. So she was kind enough to do a series of segments, and we've been debuting them, and you can find them on our YouTube page, Autism and Beyond with Christina Adams, and there are a whole bunch of different topics, and we're going to show one in a little while and talk about that particular topic. But what do I want to say? A big basket of knowledge that's varied I'm sure there's a shorter word for that. But let's start with the fact that you are an autism parent.
Yes, that's what I am. That's what we become, right? Our identity in a way, certainly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And your son was diagnosed when he was fairly young. How
yes,
old?
He was about, not that I remember anything exactly, but he was 2.9 in clinical terms, 2 years, 9 months. Okay. And he was diagnosed, of course, even though we can't say diagnosed, but a preschool assistant. Because the doctor said, oh, he's just a boy, there's nothing wrong, he'll grow out of this biting, he'll grow out of this inattention, things like that. And of course the preschool, as they do so often, said, he reminds me of someone and that person has autism and your son is probably autistic. So yes, that was fortunately a while ago, and I'm happy to have, gone through so many of the ups and downs. And right now we're in a really good place. So that's what you can only hope when you, have a family member with autism.
And you recently did an interview with your son that was on radio.
Yes.
That people can listen to if they want to listen to. You've been, I think, a shining example of a mom who has told your story and told the parts of his story that would be a benefit to other people, but you have maintained his ability to move autonomously through the world without people following him.
I have, and I thank you for recognizing that. It's always a tough thing, and it's now with so much more video going on and so many more electronic devices, it's more of a challenge. It's a blessing and a curse. For him, it was kind of interesting because when my book came out, they had a big picture of me on the back, and then we got all these offers to do TV stuff, but I did not say yes to that. I actually took the picture off of myself, and I also turned down a lot of the big stuff because they wanted to show him, and I was so protective at the time. Yeah. So, mixed. Career-wise, that may not have been the best for me, but that's okay because I just felt like I, as a parent, am doing what I have to do for him. So all these years, there have been a couple incidents where he's been involved in things which he wanted to be involved in, but mostly I kind of didn't just let him live his life. And then recently I was asked to do a radio show, and then they said, well, I met your son, he's unbelievably so great, why doesn't he come on too? Yeah. And I said, well, if he does, that'll be his choice, but it'd be his first kind of stepping out. And that guy, who is 19 years old now, he came on the radio, he did it live, he blew me away. I mean, being a media person myself, there's so few people, period, that could do what he did. And he came on and just was so articulate, so incredible. I was kind of stunned. And then I had another young man with autism who just happened to be in my neighborhood, and I met just recently, and he's a musician. And so I said, let's get this guy on too. And he's been doing some modeling too. So here I had these incredible young men with autism right next to me doing a radio show, talking about their perspective on things like masculinity and how the autism spectrum lends itself to being reasonable rather than just impulsive and emotional, and just these high-level thought patterns that only they could express, and I was just blown away. So I couldn't have had a prouder moment, and it's out there. It's in a Laguna Beach radio station.
Okay, so is there a way that we can share a link to it on our Facebook page, or
yes, I think we
or
can.
tell them where to go to look for it?
We can. So I have, here's what the easy way to be. I have a new website. It's called ChristinaAdamsAuthor.com. So if you go to that, there is my author Facebook page, which you can click on. And then I posted the links to that radio show. And after today, I'll post it again. So you can listen to these incredible young men. So go to my website, ChristinaAdamsAuthor.com, and that'll give you the portal to my Twitter and my Facebook page. And my Twitter is @CamelMilkInfo. So I put that on there, the radio show, and I'll put it again today.
And I think people will look at you and they'll go, oh, well, look at her. You're beautiful. And, you know, obviously you have a great command of the English language. You're intelligent. And they go, well, you know, she just has it all. And so apparently it was easy for her. And I think, first of all, if you read A Real Boy, one of the things that was so striking, there are so many things about it. It's an amazing book. But one of the things that we get to see in the book is that you are being abused by your child. You're being bitten, and
unintentional, but yeah,
and you have a shame issue about the bite marks and not wanting them to be seen, and some real person issues about that. So I want to start by saying that. But then after the book is over, what we find out about your story, if we get to know you, is that you were married at the time the book came out, and then that ended.
Yes, it did. And anyone who read the book would not be too shocked by that. We had pasted together sort of agreements to try to, you know, keep things going, which we always do when we have children with autism. But my divorce did come out right after the book came out. Then it was time to move on.
And it was a rough move on.
It was a rough move on. I mean, any time that you have a child with autism, your life is different. It's the great leveler. You know, what do they say? Death and taxes are the great leveler. Well, autism is also in the category of the great leveler. Yeah. So no matter how, you know, the skills that you have or you don't have, or things you have or don't have economically or otherwise, it's not easy for anyone. So becoming a single mother was a very big deal. Yeah. And so having lived through that and found a wonderful husband and stepfather and blended family, I'm very, very fortunate. But I did have a lot of challenges, and they continued. So one of the things I've written lately is I have an essay that's going to come out this weekend if you're a subscriber to Orange Coast Magazine. I'm told it'll hit your mailbox. Okay. Otherwise, it'll be on the stands next week. Okay. And it's an essay about when I, you know, had to be asked, my son and I were asked to leave our home and became a single mother and faced with the real estate challenges and the rehoming challenges here in California. But this is universal. Rentals are getting expensive everywhere. I've done some reporting on that lately. And so the challenges are multiple. So I'm happy that I have an essay out that showed how I kind of got through that.
And I just want to, you know, I wanted to put some context to it for people who look at you and go, well, clearly, I remember reading your book and thinking that Christina Adams was this perfect person who lived on top of a hill, and everything in her life was perfect and right, and her kid was perfect and right, and I needed to literally aspire to be you.
Oh no.
Right? And then I remember I didn't know what she looked like, so I couldn't have run into her on the street, right? But the first time that I saw a video of you talking, I was like, that's her. That's her. That's this amazing woman. But I just had this picture of you living in a castle, and you know, your son was perfect at the end of the book, and nothing was ever going to be wrong in your life again. And while I was thinking all of those things, you were fighting being homeless with your kiddo and looking at, you know, am I in a safe neighborhood to raise a kid, and, you know, overlooking a trash dumpster and worrying about were you going to get through the night?
Well, it was, luckily, I mean, I was divorcing a person who did make a good income, so I did have child and spousal support, and that was what made the difference, because I tried working again and I couldn't do it. because I was trying to do work freelance, and the generally male business clients, they would call, they'd get off an airplane. Okay, it's 4 o'clock. I've got 10 minutes. Here's what you need to know to write this article. My son is downstairs jumping on the sofa, or there's a 2-story. He might be starting to hang off the balcony.
Right.
I was like,
yeah,
I can't do this. What
Right.
am I going to do?
Right.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And luckily, the child and spousal support. And then, of course, when I met my husband to be, the spousal support dropped very quickly. So, so I'm more fortunate than most. But yeah, it wasn't easy at all.
Yeah.
At all.
And I love that in your story, because so many people have had the experience of having a marriage not work out and thinking they're never going to be able to find love again, and you did. You found the big L, and are very happily married, and a lot of people are, that's an inspiration to a lot of people, that you went through what you went through and have ended in a circumstance that, and it's, let's not say ended, you're here at a circumstance which is very
well. I'm very fortunate, and we are so lucky. My husband and I, he knew nothing about autism. We met, which I've said before, and so I highly recommend that strategy. But if anybody if you can keep them away from all unfavorable media as they grow to learn about autism in your life, maybe that's a good idea. Of course, I'm kidding, but. The interesting part was being single. There were a lot of nice men around. There were some that were not so nice, even though they appeared to be nice. So autism was a boon to me during the dating process, because when you learn about autism, you learn about psychology, you learn about emotions, you learn about empathy. And boy, had I learned that, especially sitting in the little room doing, ABA strategies and learning how, all these things are. Then, of course, you get very good at picking out what are the psychological weaknesses of people, right?
I'm always looking for where is everybody on the spectrum.
Well, that's our natural tendency.
Where is, because I think we're all somewhere there on that continuum, and where are the places that we shine and that we have an ability that's like no other, and where are the places where we miss the social cues, because we all have that. So I'm always looking for those things. But you took that into the dating world.
I totally did. And it was so helpful to me. So as soon as I got out there, you get to this level where you can really identify people very easily. So motor skills, I could actually watch, a potential date, look at his motor skills, kind of see what he does, and I'd be like, okay. So that's one interesting thing. His empathy. And again, of course, I happen to be straight, but I'm sure this applies with both genders and whatever your preference is. So I was really able to kind of, even over the phone. So I started dating online, and I would insist on a phone call, because I knew during that phone call I'm going to hear a lot. So one person I heard, okay, his voice is very monotone. He's very into X, Y, and Z, and he sounds like a great guy. But I had already decided, okay, I think I'm going to date someone that is going to be right for me, rather than, maybe something that I've already kind of been through, and I know that this is not what I'm choosing at this point in time.
Right.
And so I don't mean to disrespect anyone on the spectrum, because I think there are fantastic, as I've said before, husbands and fathers and mothers who happen to be on the spectrum, and it's a gift in many ways.
Yes.
But there are also things that I'd already kind of been through that I was just like, okay, I think I just want to maybe go in a different direction right now. So I met this person, and yes, definitely, they did happen to be on the autism spectrum, and that was okay. But he would want someone that was a little more introverted, perhaps. He told me what he wanted. But so I came home, I was like, oh, I think he's going to want to go out again, so what do I do? And actually, he emailed me right away, and he said, it was really lovely to meet you, really nice, you're a great person, but I generally prefer women that have more meat on their bones, and you're too thin for me, so thank you very much anyway. I was like, wow. Now, my husband now likes to say, that is the best rejection line anyone could ever give a woman. But actually, my friends, I have some friends that are more full-figured than me, and they are autism parents, and they went right out and got wonderful men. So I think the true beauty at this stage in life is seen by who you are and what you are. And no matter what you look like, you're a beautiful person if you function as a beautiful person. And we know now that, no matter what our physique is, there's beauty in all of us, how we look, how we are.
Yeah.
I have a friend whose daughter is a very famous larger model. She's on the cover of Vogue. She's doing amazing things. Fortunately now, we're into that stage where we recognize that everyone has a beauty, no matter what they look like, what their diagnosis is. I think that's the good thing about media now.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. I mean, there's still that whole bullying and that's still that body shaming and people doing stuff on camera to make their duck lips look a certain way and
well, and
all
everybody
that.
wanting to, it's got to all be in categories. But
Yeah.
it seems like I have friends who are, and obviously, you know, I'm past the full figured.
You are a lovely
I'm off
lady.
onto the other, you know, past full figured, whatever that is. But I have friends that are full figured models, and you know, it's a thing where they're not a model, they're a full figure. We're always. It's all about categories, and I don't know that we're ever going to get past that, but I think we're at least moving in the right direction.
Well, what I like to do is I think now I realize that so much of what we look like is driven by not only our genetics, but also our biological makeup and our food intake. So it's just all of it. I mean, it's just all of it. And I've learned through autism and now things are happening in the media and the medical knowledge I'm able to gain, you can never judge or categorize people because you don't know what their functioning is, you don't know what their biological makeup is, and you know, why should you? They could be your best friend or your lover or whoever you want them to be in your life if you relate to them, and no one can ever judge people. They should never judge people by the superficial things.
Well, and that leads me to we want to go to one of the Autism and Beyond with Christina Adams that we've been showing this week, and it's about neurodiversity. So we're gonna take a break and go to that, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about neurodiversity and some of the controversy that comes up in the autism community, especially in the month of April. It just like brings it all right to a boil.
April
right?
is the cruelest month. Was that Shakespeare?
Is that what Shakespeare said? April
Somebody
is the
said
cruelest
that.
month? Sounds like something Shakespeare would say. But yeah, so we're going to come back and talk about what some of the controversies are in the autism community and a little bit of where we sit on that. So first, take a look. Autism and Beyond with Christina Adams.
Neurodiversity in parents. One big happy family? We hope so. Anyway, what is neurodiversity? Everybody's talking a lot about it these days. Neurodiversity means that there's a view that people with autism just have a different way of being, and they should be honored for that. And then parents oftentimes look at autism as a disability or a disorder, and that can create some conflict. We sometimes throw up our hands, neurodiversity or neurodiversity. There can actually be some issues around this that we need to think about together. First of all, neurodiversity could be positive because it can create more of kind of a sense of acceptance in society. Yes, these people have autism, they're just different. It could possibly help create a sense of self-esteem that's improved in people with autism. They just realize, okay, I'm not damaged, I'm not bad, whatever, I'm just different. So that could be useful. On the downside, it could be an excuse to not give services to people with autism, to not have much empathy for their parents, and to not look at ways that they can be helped. And in many people that have autism, they do very well. Other people do not do well at all. They can't access services. They cannot enjoy their life. They're in pain. So it is important that we understand it's not just one issue. So how do we solve this when we look at neurodiversity? I think we have to look at it this way. It's kind of like when you have that big family dinner at Thanksgiving and everybody's around the table. You got your uncle, your aunt, your kids, your parents. Everyone has an opinion. It doesn't necessarily mesh. And I think the way that we need to think about this is we need to respect each other's opinion, because actually we need each other. We need to be allies on this. The outside world is a big place for people with autism spectrum disorders and their families. We have to remember, we're one big, happy, dysfunctional family, and we need to behave that way. We should respect each other, listen to each other, and we will all have a great time when it comes time to get together and celebrate the lives of people with autism.
Welcome back to Autism Live. That was Autism and Beyond with Christina Adams. She's here with us live in the studio, and there are, I think, are there 10 episodes of Autism and Beyond that we're going to be unveiling in the coming weeks. Really amazing. That particular one was about neurodiversity and about respecting each other. It's April, Autism blank month. For some people it's awareness, for some people it's action, for some people it's acceptance.
Yeah.
It's whatever A word you choose. But you know, we certainly have seen this month that it isn't all nice and it's not all kid gloves.
And I wonder if we're not going to expect more of that in the future. As autism has become more mainstream with, I think the official stat is 1 out of 68, but if you dig in there, they have new data that says 1 out of 45 U.S. children. And then in India, it's very high too. All the other countries are kind of getting their data together too. So I think as we see more awareness, we're going to see more controversy.
Yeah.
But not at that deep kind of level that the autism parents are doing, but more that, oh, I have an opinion on it because of what I read, which can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, it can be. There have been a lot of things already this month that come across my desktop, and I'm sure they come across yours too. And I get disappointed by a lot of the things that I read. I especially don't like it when autism parents take on other autism parents. That's my least favorite thing.
It's before we went to break, we were talking about judging people. And that's the one thing that you cannot really do unless you're really intimate with the situation. And none of us are really that intimate with each other's situations until something happens, and generally that's when people tell you the real truth about what's going on.
Yeah.
And so the articles out there are very interesting because I see that some are coming from a good place. I'm a freelance writer, and so I do deal with magazines and editors and things. And so I see some of them come from a place of good intention from the editorial staff, but then you have people that are trying to get a viewpoint out, and that's what writing is for, which is good. But some of them do tend to tackle things that they really don't know any better, or they do and they just don't like the message. There is kind of a pushback that's beginning a little bit against intervening for autism, which my own son tells me, I'm so grateful you did what you did for me. And he says, I'm not sure I want to have kids because of look what I put you through. I'm not sure I want to go through that.
Yeah.
But he says, I'm grateful for what you did for me. And he says, he just expresses it. And, you know, he's doing very well. So, I mean, I couldn't change too much. And you think about that. You think about, what should I do for this child? And you have to make those decisions every day. And that's in the trenches. That's parenting. And for someone else to come and judge what you do for your beloved child every day, and that's hard to judge. I mean, they should not be judging that. Now, sometimes there are things that people do. We all think, okay, maybe that's not the best idea. But almost always, it's coming from a place of advocating for that child and trying to help the family.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to see a child be harmed. No one, I think, across the board wants to see a child get harmed. But there's a lot of misinformation that's out there, particularly your son went through intensive ABA therapy at CARD.
Yes.
And that was the story that I read that I said, I want to do what this woman is doing. It was given to me by a woman who was doing an intensive behavioral intervention with CARD. And I met her child and then read your story and went, okay, this is what I'm doing. It is what we did. I cannot speak to other people's ABA providers and experiences, but I know for me that my son is happy.
Yes.
And well-adjusted and capable. And I know that had we not done the intervention that we did, that would not have been.
Autism is a serious issue. In some cases, it's a life or death issue.
Yes.
There's no question about it. So if you have the child that is very easy to manage, doesn't have behaviors, is not in pain, is not breaking out in rashes all over, or is the Asperger kid that you can nudge him in certain ways and he's going to be okay, or she, that's okay. But I'll tell you, here's one thing that people don't know. I hear from people in other countries all the time because of my work with autism and camel milk and all those kind of things. So it's a place of privilege. When you are in a country where you can say, they're getting too much therapy or we don't like this therapy, you're coming from a place of privilege. I hear from parents all the time, Egypt, India, the Sudan, Africa, they don't have anything. They might have to go 1,000 miles to the only doctor in the country to try to get an appointment that they wait 6 months for, and they might get a little occupational therapy, they might get a little speech therapy, and they pay out of pocket for it, by the way. So it's almost a backlash privilege in a way that to me. Now I can see where, if your child is getting a lot of intensive interventions, sometimes it's natural. You redesign the program, you change things up. That's just part of it, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what a well-run therapy provider does.
Absolutely, but it's not harmful to the child,
No.
and I don't really want to address a lot of the things that are out there because I don't think they're worthwhile addressing, but I do want to say I would never allow my child to be put in a circumstance in which he was being harmed in any way, and I don't believe that you would either.
No.
And I, sat in the next room while my son was having therapy with a baby monitor on where I could see and hear. I watched what was happening. Much to the financial detriment of my family, I sat there and watched what was happening, right?
Yeah.
And so for people who are out there who are reading these outlandish claims that are being made by some people, I want to say I would never have allowed that.
Well, I'll tell you, some of those kind of viewpoints come from people whose children did not succeed, and with those kind of, if you want to talk succeed outwardly, in that they maybe didn't meet certain benchmarks. And I don't even want to be that judgmental, because intervention that may look like it doesn't succeed, quote unquote, actually can really help prepare the brain for language, for perception, all kinds of things. So just because a person is nonverbal or something like that doesn't mean that they aren't aware of what's going on and might be brilliant. So, but a lot of people that maybe don't see results, then they kind of turn and they think, well, maybe I just have to accept it and celebrate it and things like that. And then they might start turning in that direction where they want to kind of, that's where it gets ugly, when they kind of want to dangerously say, oh, all these things are not good, or I wouldn't do that, or that's wrong, don't force them. So no one forces people to do things. I mean, with your child, it's a very interesting form of parenting. We're medical parents, we're behavioral parents, we're psychology parents, and we just want to be parents. So if you get your experts, you make the best decision you can. That's all you can do.
That's it.
If you have a child with cancer in the hospital, the doctors don't know what's going to happen. They make their recommendations, you do it, and the outcome is what it is. I don't see people attacking them.
Yeah.
So why would it be any different?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. But I want to, before we run out of time, I want to talk about, because our topic is passion, and you're passionate about camel milk.
Yeah.
And you weren't. There was a day in which you weren't all about camel milk.
No.
It's kind of a fairly recent thing. It wasn't like your child was diagnosed with autism and you went camel milk. It was many years later. But you are widely considered the expert on camel milk having to do with autism. You get sent around the world, places to talk about it. You've been here, there, and wherever, and had some adventures.
Yes, it's been quite fun. And actually, the latest one was, I was really delighted. In September, I spoke at the Autism International Neurological Conference, neuroscience conference. And what a wonderful group of people. Very, very brilliant. I'm like the only one without the kind of medical or ABA or PhD degree. I have an advanced degree, but it's not in that. So that was kind of fun, but really great people. But then one of the people that was there was a young man from England. His name is Graham Croton, and Graham calls himself dual heritage. He was late diagnosed with Asperger's, so he feels like he's a dual heritage, like neurotypical and Asperger's. Wonderful young man. He started a group in England called Project Aspie, and so they have gatherings, they have all kinds of things, and they asked me, I just spoke like, I guess a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I did a Skype on Saturday for their group. So getting up very early in the morning, and I was prepared to talk about all kinds of things, but really all they wanted to know about was my book, A Real Boy, and then also camel milk. And they laughed, they loved it, they had the best time. And so they're dying to try it over there.
I think it's fascinating. When are you going to have another book come out?
I'm working on it. I've already been working on it. So I did have an award given to me for a concept that I did. And so I'm formatting that right now. So wish me luck. Wish me luck.
Well, you're wildly talented. So I think that's more impressive than luck. So I'm going to wish you that you have fun.
Well, I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone, but there's just so much to do in the meantime.
Yes.
So,
but let's. I got off the topic of the camel milk. So you got interested in the camel milk. You were the first person to bring camel milk to the United States. I mean, and it's a wild story about how you got camel milk here, but was the goal in the beginning to give it to your son for autism? Was that what it was about?
Yes, the goal in the beginning was, and it was funny, I met a guy with a camel. He was at a children's book fair.
As you do, a guy with a camel.
As you do. If you're extremely bored and your child is there and he doesn't need you and you're like, I'm so bored, I'm like faint. So yeah, so that's how I found about camel milk. Okay, it's a thing. And I was like, what do they do? And he said they make soap and lotion from the milk. And by the way, frankincense and myrrh, I have some right now because now they're my friends. Oasis Camel Dairy, you can actually go down there and ride a camel and visit them.
Which I'm going to do at some point.
So anyway, that was fun. And they make lip stuff too, brought some of that. But basically, I just had this feeling like, okay, this could help my son. And part two could be a very good dairy substitute.
And it wasn't just you hatching this idea on your own. There have been centuries of people believing in the Middle East and giving camel milk as something that helps people, helps their digestion, helps to take care of a wide range of different things. It wasn't like you were the first person that ever said camel milk might be good for somebody's health.
Actually, I didn't know that at the time. It was really intuition. So all that work, you know, when you get a child with autism, you plunge them to the science world and this world and the diet world. All of that had led me to the point where when he said, we make soap and lotion from milk. I said, what else do they do with the milk? And he said, well, it's given in hospitals in the Middle East to premature infants because it's thought to be non-allergenic. And that was the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
That's all I knew.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, premature infants, maybe close to breast milk. He might have said that. Neither of us can quite remember. But that was enough because it was already on top of that knowledge. So I didn't even know about the decades, I mean, the centuries of use. So I went home and researched it, and there wasn't anything about autism. But I just kept going. And then after I kind of got booted out, me and my son had to leave the home we were living in because it didn't belong to us. It was my ex-husband's. Anyway, that's another story. But that's going to be in the essay. So becoming single mom, I just kept on going. And then later there was an article that a veterinarian in the Middle East had given it, in Israel, had given it to a child with autism and they got better. So I'm like, I was on the right track. So that's when it all just started researching it, found out about it, and gave it to my son, and overnight, 30% improvement. So ever since then, it's like such an easy, accessible thing, and nobody was really putting the word out. So I just got this kind of offbeat, you know, girl from Virginia now knows about camels, which is very strange.
But you look good with camels. I gotta say, all the pictures of you with the camels, it makes a certain amount of sense.
Camels are fantastic. I actually just gave an interview to Farming Magazine. How interesting is that? I was like, I lived on a farm for a while with my dad. My dad is not with us anymore, but he would have probably been most proud of me giving an interview to Farming Magazine.
And who would have thought that was what was coming around the bend?
Well, you know, I'm from Appalachia people originally, Appalachian stock. And so we, in the coal mines, my grandfather was a coal miner. They used donkeys in the coal mines, mules. They didn't use camels. So that's quite a stretch.
That is quite a stretch. That's why I say, who would have thought?
Who would have thought? But just as an aside on the donkey thing, guess what? Donkey milk seems to have some benefit too. There's a study out of England or someplace that it seemed to have some benefit too. So the weirder the milk, perhaps the more beneficial.
There you go. And the first time you came on to talk about camel milk, it was still pretty much a thing where it was hard to get. Not so much anymore.
Right.
There's more, have the laws relaxed? Is that why we're seeing it pop up in different places?
But really, just the demand has increased. So it's still really just kind of a niche of a niche of a niche. It's very nichey. So if you want to know where to get it, just email me through my site. You can do that, and I'll kind of tell you how to get it. So I did just visit a wonderful camel farm in the Midwest, a grade A dairy, fantastic operation, really nice. So I am boots on the ground, and I try to keep up with what's going on out there.
And there are several different ways you can get camel milk, right? I mean, is there raw camel milk, and there's pasteurized?
Raw, there's pasteurized, all those kind of things. So
and you can get it frozen in some cases.
You can get it frozen, fresh. Sometimes you can drive to the farms and pick it up yourself. So kind of the laws are different state by state for raw. So that's why I just rather you kind of write to me, and then I'll help you to see where your state are, and I'll direct you that way. So I don't have.
And you've even brought powdered camel milk before.
I have powdered camel milk. I have pasteurized camel milk. I have powder reconstituted camel milk. I have camel milk chocolates, luxury and otherwise. I have lotions. I have the latest experimental lipstick.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's got camel milk in it?
Yes, because it is very, very good for the skin. Now this is peppermint from our friends at Oasis Camel Dairy, and it's very smooth, very nice. And because it actually topically, it also helps with the healing.
Okay.
And here's some that I have yet to open. It's from the Middle East. Would you like to?
No, let's leave it closed. I don't want to open your thing. But
keep it beautiful packaging.
Keep
right.
it. So why do we think camel milk, first of all, you said 30% better. So what behaviors did you see change?
I saw motor skills. I saw eye contact. I saw language flow. I saw emotive content in the language. I saw executive functioning. It was actually incredible. And at the time, my husband now, but we were dating then, and he was coming over to help my son get ready for school in the morning, which is an infallible way to date someone who has a kid with autism. I never asked him to do it, the witty guy. He's just that kind of guy, wonderful guy. So he had 3 neurotypical children.
Right.
So he was a very good observer.
Right.
So neither of us expected what was going to happen. So we were both staggered to see the change in him. And I actually wrote a medical journal article about it, which I was on here discussing that previously. Yeah. And so I have other people that are talking to me about it, asking me about it. So at the Autism Neuroscience Conference, that's where I kind of presented it. So in a long story short, there's been enough science come out in the past couple years that shows it's very good in various disease areas.
Yeah.
And there has even been like a meta-analysis that shows it's safe and effective for children with autism and food allergies.
Okay.
So the science is there with that, and that's the good part. And I even published an article last year in a European thought journal called Open Democracy, because the Indian folks in Rajasthan were having a difficult time selling the milk. I think I was on here talking about that. Well, now I'm happy to say that it's become legal. It's added for sale, and they are selling camel milk to autism patients in India.
That's amazing.
And this friend of mine over there, Dr. Ilsa, as she's known, she actually just gave a TED Talk, and she said she mentioned me in it, and that was a great honor.
But quite honestly, it's time for you to have a TED Talk. Let's
my.
be honest about that. It's time. You need your TED Talk.
I haven't even looked into doing it. I probably should, but I haven't even looked into it. So if anybody has a shorthand to do it,
they need to
send me a nudge.
Because you should have a TED Talk. Is there like an amount? Because what I remember in talking about this is that there was an amount that you gave your son, that up until that amount it had benefits. If you went past a certain amount, that you didn't see as many benefits.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are so many users now of camel milk. Thousands and thousands and thousands of users, and a lot of them are being added these days at a rapid clip to the group that are using it. So basically, I started out with 4 ounces. He was 9 years old, and I felt that was a pretty good dose based on, even though I don't say dose because it's not a medicine, but it was a pretty good amount based on my talking with the doctor that was my mentor in Israel. and the adult users with Crohn's. So I gave him the same amount, 4 ounces, and that was turned out to be perfect for him. So when we went past that, he started getting some tics. So
Okay.
probably from, like a die-off effect, as we call it, shorthand in the autism world. He probably was, detoxing and overloading and things like that. So too much for him. So we dialed it back, and of course they disappeared. Fine, no negative long-term effects. So now, since people are using it as a first-line intervention, now I'm hearing people get a diagnosis, especially in other countries, and one of the first things they want is camel milk. So small children are doing it. So some people are actually using just little amounts, like teaspoons,
Yeah.
and they actually feel like they see some response from that.
Really?
Yes. I'm kind of skeptical, but on the other hand, it's their child. The child could be very sensitive, so some people undoubtedly are seeing that. Other people are using more, and it's fine. So really, it's super individual. It's just like however their immune system is dysfunctioning, then that's kind of correlating to how much camel milk you need to give. And it's super individual.
And not to get too sciencey, but do we know what it is in the camel milk that, we know that the makeup of it is different than, say, cow's milk, but do we know what it is that's different that makes it beneficial?
Well, the nutritional data, there's some new nutritional data out, and when you test for the vitamins and nutrients that is required by a label here in the United States, interestingly, that's almost identical, raw and pasteurized, and then it's very, very similar to the contents of cow milk. I mean, there's things that are different though. It's lower in certain fats. It's better for you in many ways than cow milk. However, the raw and pasteurized with those kind of things, it's about the same, which was good to know. But the things in camel milk that may be effective are not really super quantified yet in terms of autism. However, it's probably the enzymes may be one. It has lysosome. It has all kinds of great enzymes in it, fats, things like that. And here's another thing. It almost works like, to me, IVIG. If you know what IVIG is, intravenous immunoglobulin, it seems to me to have the same effect. Only camel milk is, $15 a bottle. IVIG can be $20,000 an infusion.
Yeah.
So there's obviously, a crossover effect there on the immune system. And so with the antibodies that camel milk contains, the immunoglobulins to me, that's probably a big part of it, because if we see that effect in IVIG and we see it in camel milk, there's probably a similar effect.
Interesting.
And
so that helps
yeah.
to boost your immune system, and
Yeah.
we're finding more and more information about how autism is related to the immune system.
Right.
So fascinating. And again, you had said earlier that this is found to be safe for people who have other allergies.
Right.
Because I have a milk allergy. There are a lot of people on this planet that cannot handle cow's milk for
Right.
whatever reason. And so what a wonderful thing that those people tend to not have any issue with camel milk.
Right.
Powerful thing.
And the one thing that I also say is best to do is, I always tell people, please remove your child from all other dairy products first, because you want to know what the bounce effect is, or the negative effect, whatever you get.
Yeah.
Because if you take them off regular dairy and put them right on camel milk, you're not going to know, was the regular dairy causing the problem, they're going to improve after that, or was it the addition of the camel milk?
Okay.
So that's what I advise. At least I like to put a 6 to 8 week window on those uses.
Okay, so we only have like 2 minutes left. Didn't that fly by? And we didn't.
Yeah.
There are so many things left to talk about. But I want to first of all give them the information again about how to get a hold of you and to get in contact with you, so that if they have questions about camel milk, they
Yeah.
can reach you.
Yeah, so it's my new website, because as a writer and all things that I do, everybody's like, we need you to have it all in one place. And I had a website before, but I let it lapse. So I do post a lot of things on my author Facebook page. So go to my website, ChristinaAdamsAuthor.com. You can see a lot of articles that I've written, which will be there for you. I have a resource listed on there for medical help, because I'm not a doctor and I refer people to that. I have some inspirational articles, some fun videos on there, and you can also email me through the site, and then you can also link to my author Facebook page, where I put like topical news and commentary on that.
Wonderful. And then anything else that we left out, because we got like a minute and a half. There were so many things we were going to talk about. We were like, oh, we have all this time, and then it flies by.
It flew by. Well, let's see, what can we talk about? So I guess of all those things we talked about, I think I'd like to leave on a kind of a positive note.
Let's do that.
Because I just returned from a visit to Kentucky and Cincinnati. I mean, I literally got back this week. So even though I wasn't there for any autism type purpose, I ended up meeting the most amazing special needs people and people that deal with autism. And I'd like to give a shout out to a special experience. I was at Skyline Chili, which started in 1949 in Cincinnati. And I'd heard about this famous Cincinnati chili, like, oh, it's different, you have to try it, you have to try it. So being a foodie, I went to try it. But we were there in this kind of place. The food is very inexpensive. And a lady came in, elderly lady. She clearly had a developmental disability. She was chatting nonstop to herself and others, anyone in earshot. The lovely waitstaff person, the woman, she sat her down next to her station. They were catching up on the gossip. And my husband and I were like, we want to buy her food. And the lady said, well, okay, but you don't have to. And I said, do you all already take care of her? She goes, yeah, we do. We take care of her. And they were just so good to her. And then I just thought it was great. And so it's wonderful that a company would go out of their way to just underwrite a happy day for a woman with her disabilities.
Skyline Chili, so
In
people need to
Cincinnati.
check it out in Cincinnati. Thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure. Honestly, you've had such a huge impact on my life, and it's all been good. So I appreciate you. We're totally out of time, though, as I start to get weepy. We're going to be back next week. I want to remind everybody that the autism run that is happening for the military families, it's a benefit for military families for ACT Today, is happening on Saturday, and we will all be there bright and early at Tecolote Shores down in San Diego. We want to encourage you, if you would like to run or participate or just come to the resource fair, you don't have to run or walk or even register, although it is a great fundraiser and a way to give back. We encourage you to do whatever you can to be there. We will be there, and then we'll be back with live shows again next Wednesday. And it'll be the second half of the anxiety show with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.